Now I'd like to call our next witness, Verla Insko.
Professor Daskell, Mr. Goldsmith, and members of the commission and guests in the audience. I'm Verla Insko. I represent the 56th House District, which is in Orange County. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to testify today about concerns that the General Assembly has had about involvement of the state of North Carolina to assist the CIA in activities that involve torture. In 2007, I was one of 12 bipartisan members of the North Carolina House to sponsor House Bill 1682. That title was North Carolina, No Place for Torture, an act to punish the torture, kidnapping, and enforced disappearance of persons. We filed this bill in response to concerns raised by our constituents about the state of North Carolina's involvement in the CIA Extraordinary Rendition Program. That must have been Allison. So thank you, Allison, for that. Their information came from very disturbing articles published in the New York Times and other media outlets beginning in 2005. Those articles laid out very clear evidence that North Carolina's public airports, including the Global Trans Park as well as the airport in Johnston County, were being used as a base for secret CIA-directed flights that transported prisoners from their place of capture to locations where they would be tortured. The articles identified Aero Contractors Limited as a major domestic hub of the Central Intelligence Agency's Secret Air Service. In October 2006, having learned of Aero Contractors' alleged rendition flights, we wrote to the State Bureau of Investigation Director Robin Pendergraft. Citing the New York Times stories, we asked for an immediate examination of the Aero situation. We wrote, whether or not Aero's activities at the Global Trans Park were legal, they certainly violate our sense of morality and humanity. We believe the state of North Carolina should sever any connections to such actions. Director Pendergraft responded that she lacked jurisdiction. She informed us that she had shared our information with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In January 2007, we wrote to Attorney General Roy Cooper expressing our disagreement that the SBI lacked jurisdiction in this matter. We noted 2 recent cases in which the SBI had found jurisdiction necessary to participate in investigations of federal law. We asked the Attorney General to direct the SBI to investigate. The Attorney General's General Counsel responded in March 2007 that the FBI was the most appropriate agency to investigate alleged crimes carried out by Aero Contractors. He expressed concern about the lack of jurisdiction and resources. He cited specialized expertise and additional tools the FBI had to deal with complex cases. To address these problems, I joined with 11 other members of the North Carolina House of Representatives to sponsor House Bill 1682, as I've mentioned, the North Carolina No Place for Torture Act. This was the first, and to our knowledge, the only state bill to address violations in the post-9/11 rendition and torture program. House Bill 1682 did 3 things. It amended North Carolina law to identify torture, kidnapping, and enforced disappearance as felonies. It gave the state jurisdiction to investigate. It empowered the convening of a grand jury to investigate with the concurrence of the North Carolina Attorney General. House Bill 1682 was first introduced in 2007 session of the long session of the General Assembly. It was then studied by the North Carolina Sentencing and Policy Advisory Commission, which convened a torture offense subcommittee in January 2008. The commission recommended strengthening the penalties that we had proposed in House Bill 1682. In the short session, that's the 2008 short session, we added about 10 more sponsors. I think we had 20 or 21 sponsors to that bill. We introduced House Bill 2417 that incorporated the commission's recommendations. That bill was never brought to a vote, unfortunately. It did get a hearing in Judiciary 1, and that committee made some amendments, but it was never brought back to that committee for a full vote. Unfortunately, our state government has never summoned the political will to investigate allegations of torture related to rendition flights or to ban them from public North Carolina airports. I urge the Commission to call on the North Carolina General Assembly to take responsibility to develop and pass legislation to clarify that North Carolina has a policy against public airports being used for secret transport and torture of human beings. I also urge you to call on our Governor and Attorney General to investigate cases in which Aero Contractors was involved. We understand that Aero rendered at least 44 prisoners, some more than once. This amounts to mass kidnapping and a large-scale conspiracy to abuse and torture. As a legislator, it concerns me to see our state has not investigated these cases. Torture and secret rendition are violations of U.S. law and numerous state laws. Finally, I urge the people of North Carolina to continue talking with their elected officials about torture. Torture is inhumane and pointless. It's degrading for the people who inflict the torture as well as the people who experience the torture. Though there is ample evidence that torture never produces information that can reliably be used to save other lives. As a person of faith and a believer in the rule of law, it concerns me that so many Americans now say it is acceptable for our government to torture. It is vital for our collective humanity that the people continue to lead against torture, and hopefully our leaders will follow. Thank you very much.
Questions from commissioners?
I have a question, Representative. I'm wondering if you have thoughts about what we can do to help build support for the kind of work that you've been doing within the legislature.
Well, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but elect different people. I do think that there is support on both sides. There is opposition on both sides of the aisle for this kind of activity. I don't know how extensive it is, but I think that is the case. And I always think that it's important to continue reminding people that this is going on. It hasn't stopped. And so it's important to keep people reminding that this is a current issue.
Representative Insko, I'm curious about, you said that there were 2 cases that you found in which the SBI had investigated violations of federal law.
Yes.
I don't know if that material has been shared with us yet, but we would be very interested in receiving it.
I can provide that for you.
All right.
Thanks. And I'll make sure Christine gets it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please join me in thanking Representative Insko.